And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, I'm going to go ahead and go over ESPN's top 25 list again. And instead of, talking about who's on the list, because that was, really what I was talking about before, I'm going to talk about who didn't make the list, and I'm also going to go over the list a little bit again and maybe talking about my opinions on the list, because I didn't really get to say everything that I wanted to say, because it was a longer than average segment, and a lot of people, and since it was longer than normal, I couldn't really elaborate on everything that was supposed to be said, right? So it's just it's a little bit of it was a bit of a a last second thing, I guess you could say. Well, no, it wasn't really a last second thing, but this was sort of one of those instances where I was just I still have a lot more things to talk about, so I might as well go ahead and talk about this sort of thing again, because I want to get my actual opinions out there. So just a bit of a recap before we go into this this segment. There were ESPN, they made a list of the top 25 NBA athletes of the 21st century. So this is in the order that they listed them out as well. But these are the top athletes of the NBA. And so some of them made ESPN's top 100 list. Some of them didn't make ESPN's top 100 list. So LeBron, he's number one. Then goes Kobe. Then Steph. Then Tim. Then Shaq. Then after Shaq is KG. Then Jokic. Then Dwayne Wade. And Kevin Durant. Dirk Nowitzki. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steve Nash, James Harden, Jason Kidd, Chris Paul, Kawhi, Manu Ginobili, Allen Iverson, Anthony Davis, Jesus Shuttlesworth or Ray Allen, Tony Parker, Draymond Green, Russell Westbrook, Pau Gasol, and Luka Doncic. So those are all of the players that were on ESPN's top 25 list. So of the 21st century. And all of these players, they're really good, and you can make an argument for some of these players being on the list, but the same way that you can make an argument for these players being on the list and why they should be on the list, there's also arguments for, other players being on the list as well. And one of those other players that could be, making the list is, this is a little bit controversial, and I don't really think that he should be on this list. But actually, you know what? No, never mind. We're not even going to start with that player that should be on the list. One of these guys that I personally think should have made the list of the top 25 athletes in the 21st century is the one and only Knicks legend Carmelo Anthony, right? Now, Melo, again, while he doesn't have so many championships, right? One of the things that separated him from a lot of his peers was his Olympic career. Before Kevin Durant, he was arguably the best Olympian in the entire history of USA basketball. And we saw on ESPN's list that they really gave Manu Ginobili a lot of credit for his, participation on the Argentinian team, as well as, his championship runs with the Spurs. Obviously, the championship runs with the Spurs, they hold a lot more value, but, considering how Manu wasn't the best player on his team during those championship runs, I don't know how much more value it brings to the table as opposed to his Olympic career, considering how Tony Parker has the same amount of rings and has one more Finals MVP, but was actually ranked lower on the list than Carmelo Anthony. Well, not only Carmelo Anthony, but was ranked lower than Manu. Like, sure, Melo doesn't really have a title to his name. However, he did win the scoring title in 2012 and 2013, and he also has 28,289 career points, which is 10th most in the history of the league. And when you have a really competent scorer like that, I feel like having him off of this list is, you can make an argument for him being on this list and replacing, someone like the player that I mentioned previously, like Manu Ginobili, or even I wouldn't replace him for Tony Parker simply because Tony Parker has the Finals MVP, or even someone like Russell Westbrook, or even Pau Gasol. Like, you can make the argument that Melo should have been on this list and not Pau, or you can make the argument that Melo should have been on it and not Russ or someone else like that. Like, those are just examples, and those are just opinions and debates. You don't necessarily have to take them that seriously. Now, another player that was not on this list was Joel Embiid. A lot of people. Now, this is sort of like, a public opinion as opposed to a me opinion. He wasn't on this list. I don't think he should be on this list. Even though you could make the argument that, he is a much better scorer than Pau Gasol, and he is just, much more versatile, and he's going to be considered as one of the better players in this league. And unlike Pau, Joel Embiid is actually in the debates as being one of the best big men in the league. Period. Like, no question about it. And you could also make the argument that maybe he should be on this list over somebody like Allen Iverson, given how, Joel Embiid has the scoring that Iverson has, as well as the defense. But I just personally don't think that Joel Embiid should really be on this list. But at the same time, Jokic was already, like, a lot of people might think, okay, well, if you're going to have Jokic on the list, then you should also have Joel Embiid on the list, because Joel Embiid constantly outperforms when playing against Jokic every single time. And I do understand that, but again, I just don't agree with that, and those are just my opinions. I'm just, giving out the multiple perspectives as to why they have an argument for even being on this list. And I mean, he won an MVP in 2022, 2023, and is still only 30 years old. He won back-to-back scoring titles in 2021 and in, from 2021 2022 to 2022 to 2023. And while he doesn't really have that much success in the postseason, his regular season prowess is really something to, it's not something to ignore, especially since, James Harden is on the list as well, and he's on relatively high, and he hasn't even won a championship. The only real thing that he has to his name is an MVP. And since Joel Embiid already has an MVP as well as a couple scoring titles, you could make the argument that he should be on the list as well. But if you are going to argue Joel Embiid being on this list, then you have to argue that Dwight Howard should probably be above him. Now, unlike the last few players that I mentioned, Dwight Howard actually has a finals appearance, and he also has an NBA championship that he won with the Lakers. And a lot of people really forget about that championship that he won because he wasn't the best player on the team, but he still was a pretty valuable player. Now, he also led the league in rebounding 5 times. He also led the league in blocks twice, and was named Defensive Player of the Year for 3 straight seasons. And since that hasn't been done in recent memory, like, I can't really name a defensive player that won 3 straight. That is a feat that's probably never going to be done again in the history of basketball. And because of that, I feel like this should be recognized. And oddly enough, Dwight was also snubbed from the top 100 athletes. Like, he's not even on the list of ESPN's top 100 athletes of the 21st century, despite doing something so historic that no one has ever done since Dwight. Like, this is really the last dominant center that the league has seen. Now, obviously, we might get accustomed to watching a center win the Defensive Player of the Year 3 years in a row in Victor Wembanyama. So we might see that happen again, but as of right now, Dwight Howard is one of those players that just, he got snubbed from the top 25 list, as well as getting snubbed from the top 100 list. So just wanted to, point out some of those players. I'm going to go ahead and continue this fourth segment and move it to the fifth segment, right? So I'm just going to, that's what the fifth segment is. It's going to continue talking about some of the snubs on ESPN's list, both of the lists actually. And, I'll just go ahead and continue that right after this short break. So be sure to stay tuned. I'll be right back.